Hello, this is Walter Bradley, and this is Heart Talk. I'm here with Greg Fernandez, Jr., and we're here to talk about a case tonight called the Crowley case of Minnesota, Apple Valley. And we noticed some incongruity or some problems with the facts, with the conclusions of the Apple Valley Police Department. We don't know why it went this way, but it was described that he killed his daughter, that's David Crowley, his wife, and tried to kill the dog, they assume. And he was found 3 weeks after the alleged events. And I'm here with Greg, and we're here to just kind of delve into this. And Greg, why don't you update our listeners and tell them a little bit about this case in case no one has heard of it, and your conclusions based on Catherine Michelle, her investigation, and your investigation. Go ahead, Greg, let us know.
Well, I would say I'm still looking into this. I still haven't come to a conclusion where I think that, David is innocent or he's guilty. I'm still open to the possibility that David Crowley is guilty, but there is just nothing there that would lead me to even think that David Crowley is guilty, basically. So that's been the problem that I've had. And the only other logical thing is, well, okay, if it wasn't David, then it must have been somebody else, right?
Yes.
But I can't say that I have a conclusion on this. I have a couple working theories. One of the working theories is probably one of the most outrageous things that you'll hear, and it does involve David being guilty. And that working theory is that he was possessed by a demon, went crazy, and killed himself. Okay, that's one working theory. That's the only logical theory, the only logical thing that I can find for any reason that David Crowley is guilty. That's it. And even that really doesn't make sense. That is the only way that I can logically put it into my brain that the police covered this up. Because aren't there other cases that we've seen where ghost sightings, where people have been taken over by demons, and I do believe there are other cases that fit that standard where the police cover it up because they don't want to look crazy. I think the biggest thing is that I would ask is for everybody just to do the research on your own. Don't think that just because I think something that everybody else should too. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. I'm trying to convince myself of one way or the other. Was David Crowley guilty? Was he, did he snap? All that stuff. And I've gone through it all. And I go back and forth, but it all comes down to the same thing. There is no meat there. There is nothing there that should lead anybody to think that David Crowley is guilty. The Apple Valley police have a conclusion that because they don't see any evidence of anybody else, that it must be David. That's not good. That's not a good way to solve a case. I've never heard of that. Every cop, every person that I've shown this so far, they all have the same look. They are just dumbfounded, like, what the heck? It always it's a three-phase thing. I start telling them this, they start asking me questions, they kind of get silent, they're very stumped by it, and then they don't want to talk about it. And I think that's going to be a big, big problem, because if there's other outside cops that don't want to talk about it, how much more likely is it that the Apple Valley police don't want to talk about it? So I know that's a long-winded answer without really giving you an answer, all to come back and just say, as far as a conclusion, at this point, I do not have one.
Okay. Now, I'm going to chime in a little bit and put some perspective from my side. And one of the things that I agree with you is that he could be guilty. But all of the evidence that would support that, I don't see it. Not that it could not be true, but just the condition of his body, the body's layout, and what I saw and the evidence that Catherine Michelle brought produced a lot of doubt in me that he did do it. Now, you brought up the interesting aspect that it was a spiritual related thing. Herein is something that most people, and it's very rare, wouldn't believe, but is a very minute, very small percentage, 0.001011. It'd be infinitesimal in its likelihood. However, there are things that interact in this world, spiritual, that motivate people or can control or infill them momentarily, so to speak, spirit beings, or that can appear and act in the physical realm of our earth. Now, this has happened before, but it's very rare. And the point being that could it have been something that happened that they did find evidence of, but were not in a position to say, oh yeah, it was an evil spirit apparition that appeared and we found evidence that it slaughtered them. Well, that's not something that plays in the newscast, and neither would it go over in a public sense, because that's a biblical thing. And they don't get much good in their minds of putting that out there. They best would have said, like many in the military, let's just keep this under wraps. We'll make it an obvious thing of it isn't this, but we're going to say it is, and shut up. People will disagree and say we're in collusion and that he was murdered. Yeah, okay, let them do it. But we're just going to take the rap, and whoever goes up on it, we'll talk to the Attorney General, let them know the situation, and we'll keep a cap on this because we don't want to talk about this. That is one scenario. Or it was a government-involved agent setup, clandestine setup through the government, which was made to eliminate him and his project so it did not see the light of day, which has more veracity than my previous. So I personally don't believe he was responsible for this action that occurred to his family or himself. That's me. I'm open to be corrected on that if there is irrefutable evidence to the contrary. So, in that same vein, it is a very tenuous job for anybody who's looking into that case, because I think certain officers who didn't know would want to look into it until they found out what it is or what it was, and then maybe then they go, oops, you're right, I'm going silent. And that's kind of my take on it. There's a lot of things we're not seeing here that have not been revealed, and I don't think we have all the facts about this case. I think we have evidence that was presented and allowed to free float through the internet and through different people, which indicates it was not David Crowley. However, they say it was. So the thing comes to mind is, now here's the strange case of the body double. One that looks like Crowley that is not Crowley. Could there be an inference to that? I don't know. But body doubles are not infrequent in the world. I have one somewhere. That would be hard to tell the difference unless you knew me. If David Crowley, being a former military person, he would know ways to defend himself. And yet, they kill his daughter, and I assume before they killed him, or maybe the order of death was not established. It could have been he was killed first and then his family as witnesses of that. So in that, we have that. What is the order of death? They could not establish that, and I see that as a problem also. And in this, they don't know, so they have to assume, and I think that's a great word, assume it was a murder-suicide and leave it at that unless they know something and must keep it under wraps because of the bizarre nature of the death and the murder situation.
The whole body double thing. One of the theories, one of the early theories that I heard is that these were not their three bodies. The first press release that shows that the bodies were positively identified happens on January 21st, 2015. These bodies, The actual autopsies are done on January 18th. David is being accused of this crime on January 18th. They have not even positively identified the bodies yet, and they're already accusing David of this crime. It's ridiculous behavior, disgusting behavior. Things like that frustrate me because, of course, you're going to think that there's something funny going on, that there's something foul going on. And I think this was a big test for all of those people who claim to be truthers, all those people who claim to be a part of, who don't care or who are anti-government or going after the government, corruption, all of this stuff. Where are they? Where are they now? Where did they go? This case was going to hurt a lot of those people. It was not going to help them. And I still do not understand the alternative media and how they responded to this case. That is the gray shame right there of how they responded by not responding. They'll talk about reptilians. They'll talk about shape-shifting. They'll talk about all of these other things. But when we have a clear-cut example that something is wrong here, and it involves a very young child and two young people and a soldier, it is ridiculous. It just really continues to frustrate me, and I'm turning that frustration into something positive. And we're going to find out what really happened here. I can guarantee you. I know that God knows, and if it's His will, if He wants us to know what happened here, it will be done. And nobody is going to stop that. Nobody.
And that's true. And here's another angle. He was in, what did you say, the Army?
Yes. He was in the Army. He served in Iraq, in Afghanistan.
He had a high clearance level, I take it. He had a
that I'm not sure about. I'm really not sure about that. I've heard different theories on it, but most of those leads have kind of gone dead. Any time that I'm contacted by a military person or something, not all the time, but a lot of the time, especially ones that kind of knew him or knew of him or served with him, they go cold, they go silent. It's like we're being monitored, we're being watched. It's the watchers. They're not watching for people who are part of any crime here. They're going after the people that are asking questions, and that should be another sign that there's something wrong here.
Well, there's one thing that the watchers don't understand is that they are being monitored by, we'll just say that they are being monitored. And they can't escape either. This is something that's beyond them and beyond us, actually, at this point, until we get something. It's not that they're in control, and I think they know that. I think there would be realization in their hearts that they know this is something beyond them. If it is involving anything that I could surmise, could be involved with the Army. Now, he was doing this Revelation, this movie that he was in, and he was in the Army. There are certain sworn affidavits that we go to and sworn testimony. Well, actually, we swear to uphold top secret things for a certain amount of time, I should say. And the attitude is you don't reveal until you go X number of years out from your service. I was classified top secret, involving weapon systems and development and testing and all kinds of things. And the reality is you don't talk about that at all, or reveal those things that they say do not reveal that surround that. And I kept that agreement, and I had some visits a visit from certain naval investigative services and checking me out, and they're very serious. They can do anything they want with you if they see evidence of total impropriety or anything with government secrets that are revealed and they have evidence that it is true, you're a goner. You're a goner. They'll just make you disappear if they want, or take you to Leavenworth or whatever is in view. The UCMJ gives, you're covered by the UCMJ your whole life once you've been in the military. And if they deem you a big enough threat and you had enough access to, let's just say, limited information that was only need to know for a very select group, and you begin talking about it, they have right to kill you. And will do it if they see it necessary. But what I'm seeing here is that he was producing something that was touching in that direction. Now, let me ask a question based on that. His movie was focusing on what areas? Was it a multiple area movie focus where he was covering different areas, or was his focus mainly on a specific area, and what was it about?
The focus seemed to change. So you can watch his 2012 trailer. That's as far as he really got. And in the 2012 trailer, it looks like it is a government takeover. They're knocking down people's doors. They're taking over the whole government. They have a big guillotine, and they're chopping people's heads off with a guy in a freaking Mason robe. It's pretty sick stuff, and that's what turned me off about this back in 2012, because it looked like a satanic sacrifice. It looked like fear porn, and the way that I could not even watch it. Even before I watched it, I had this just overwhelming feeling that this is very dark, this is evil, and to just stay away from it. And here I am for some reason. But I think as the trailer got popular, and as David got more serious about making this into an actual film, which towards the end of his life they were going to make it into a TV series, but I think it got more spiritual. And I think from everyone that has made comments in public, their public comments, they've stated that David was taking the movie in a different direction than what that 2012 trailer was, which I think is good. So I was wondering, and I'm still not sure, was he taking it in a more spiritual direction? But when we say spiritual, that can mean anything. Was he taking it in a more Christian direction? That's what I'd like to know.
That's a good point. And since he made changes, and that direction was, I think, would have been more light in areas that were not wanted, and then points the finger in a direction of government operatives, possibly under NSA and CIA directives, would have said, we can't let this happen. And since that movie has been canned effectively by his death, that is big motive in my opinion. And maybe they had a good reason to do it, but it comes back to my question, why kill the wife? Why kill the child? This area right there shows a penchant for murder. Somebody who has done this before and is working towards an aim or as a display to others. And I think that fits more of the paradigm, I think, that's in view with David Crowley. This was a message. This was something made to get people's attention. The whole family killed. What was he working on? This. Oops, I'm not working on that. The fact that he was working and changing his movie project and touching on government areas which involved probably Monterey and Bohemian Grove. I'm sure that became one of the mentioning facts in his movie. Was that not part of it? Did he go that direction?
We don't really know. At least I don't know, because I haven't seen any versions of his script. And I think the most important one would be his final version of his script, or the latest version that he was working on, because he was still working to change whatever the final script was. He was going to turn that into a TV series, so obviously he had to kind of tweak it. But we do know that there was a Bohemian Grove owl statue in his house, and we do know that he had a checklist of different things that he was doing some research on. One included the reptilians, the lizard people, and the queen. Things like that. Like maybe the queen was a lizard or something like that. Stuff like that.
Like David Icke?
Say it again?
Like the Queen of
England? Basically the whole David Icke stuff. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
That's a dangerous area to start accusing the Queen of England. That gets into a whole other realm. And that expands it to international. And if you have a derogatory movie that's denigrating the Queen of England, that is definitely not a wise way to go. And there's a lot of people that accuse the Queen of England of certain things, and to me it's hearsay. And I go, well, give me evidence. And to date, I have not seen anything that would implicate the Queen or anybody there. They say they're this, David Icke does, and now he was part of the media before he came into his research. Could he be a plant, a shill? I don't know. A lot of people say he is.
I think he is. Yeah, I think he is.
That's my summation in some regard. But there's a lot of people that reveal a lot of things. And when you talk reptilian, what are you talking about? And shapeshifter, I don't think the Queen is a shapeshifter. I don't believe that. Could she be evil? Well, we're all evil. However, is she actually pursuing a satanic agenda? Now that could come into view where it could get you killed in revelations of that if you had evidence that she was part of ritual or anything that was tied to a satanic bent. And, in England, they had that guy Seville who was a pedophile and was covered and who supplied, quote unquote, children to the royals and to the high up in government and so forth. That was kind of hushed up fairly quick, but it came out and it blew away. And when you're dealing with things of government and involvement, and especially in high government, it is a dangerous area, and you have, even if you have plentiful evidence and you can prove your point, it's best not to talk to a lot of people about it, nor should you broadcast it that you're working on it. And this is the area which, as I had mentioned to others, when we deal with these things, be careful. Know what you're doing. Know why you're doing it. Because they may come calling on you and say, we're going to kill you now. Have any final words? Well, yeah, I'm doing it for the Father, and my words are not final. They're just for the time being, and after you kill me, there will be some more words I'll have to talk with you later about. That will be the time we'll deal with this for real. And they don't think about that. They think when they kill you that that's that. They don't know they have empowered you to the highest, and that at a point they will see you again. Kind of a strange thought, but it is true. And with that, they may see David Crowley again, and his wife and child. Wow. And have to face them with the Father. Whoa, wait, what would happen then? Well, people don't think about the consequences in the hereafter with the now, as we're both very aware. And so I conclude that this case is still open, and that maybe the reason it is as it is the Father says, I'm going to adjudicate this one. And woe unto them, because they think they've gotten away with it. No, they haven't. And neither did those who killed Kennedy. They didn't get away with it. That's a fact. But I consider this a murder, but not a murder-suicide, based on the evidence given. Like I said, in which you stated in your position, it is possible that he did do it and that the scene was tampered with. This is a possibility and the reality of a lot of cases, so we do have to leave that door open until we have conclusive proof otherwise. So I don't have any further points that I would want to make on that case particularly, but and we're going to proceed on to some other things and see what we can kind of ferret out with that in the future as I look over more things in the Crowley case and then come back with Catherine Michelle. Do you have any final thoughts on that, Greg?
No, I say we'll keep talking about it, and we'll come back and chat about it next time.
Okay, that sounds good.